to the channel, as always. Today's video, I think, is quite an important subject given the time that we live in, and it's about the transition curve, or the motivation of your people and your teams and those around you on a day-to-day basis. This is super important anyway, at the best of times, but even more so when our only communication with our people is via Zoom, even if this is your friends, your colleagues. But in a scenario of your colleagues, they're people you're responsible for, particularly if you are the leader, if you're the manager. I think it's really critical. I thought I'd show what is the transition curve, because it can be quite corporate speak, but actually I think it's very relevant in the situation that we find ourselves in right now. As you saw, that was what the transition curve looks like. So stage one is uninformed optimism. We were all there. There was a rallying cry.
Just one chance to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom.
I suppose from the government, from the media, we all need to lock down. Something seismic's coming. It's going to change the shape of our lives, albeit in the short term, what it felt at the time, that's become maybe the medium term, potentially even the long term, depending on the context that we talk in today. But actually, at that moment, there was uninformed optimism. There's the 8 o'clock clap on a Thursday, the championing of the NHS, the celebration of people complying, the ostracising of those that didn't. There was the optimism that we, as a collective of people, were going to beat this. It was new, and I don't think we should be afraid to say it. For some people, I've worked from home-based offices for quite a few years, but a lot of people have discovered or rediscovered Skype, Zoom, Teams, any number of communication methods that were new to them. Companies that once viewed offices as integral may now move even to just meeting rooms, because it's demonstrated that you can be functional, practical, and get real good use or yield out of your team's performance while working remotely. So there was this optimism, quite rightly so. Stage 2 is then an informed pessimism, or an informed negativity.
Oh, I do not believe it! I do not. Have you seen this? Simply beggars belief.
We're no longer uninformed. The coronavirus is clear. We understand what it is, and actually you start to then dip, because it's clear that this is no longer a short-term solution as it was sold in. The government were updating us properly every 3 weeks. Where will we be in 21 days' time? And that fueled a belief that 21 days later the world would be a better place. And that wasn't true. So after the first lot of announcement and then the second lot of announcements, where we aren't seeming to be able to ramp up the testing quite quick enough, we don't have antibody testing, we're a long way off a vaccine, and the death rate was increasing. At that point, actually what you find is a lot of pessimism, and the relevance to that professionally is the excitement of being on Zoom all day is then replaced with the frustration, the lack of human interaction in amongst your teams, spending all day at your screen, talking all day, and what could have been a 2-minute office-based conversation has maybe become a 30-minute call that wouldn't normally need to be penciled in. And actually people are firing WhatsApp messages at you text messages, emails, because people want to know you're still on it. Or you've got the flip side of those who've gone from the cut and thrust to huge uncertainty. They are now being furloughed or had already been furloughed, and the excitement of being at home and supported, thinking you're going to be back at work within a month, has gone. The realisation is we're in this for the long haul. Those leaders, those managers, recognising that there is about to be a seismic shift in the way that your company operates, and actually we need to be prepared for what the future brings, and you're making tougher decisions. So it leads to your informed pessimism or your informed knowledgeable negativity, because you know that whilst there is always hope, the future isn't as bright as it once looked. The world will right itself again, but we've got some tough decisions to make. So those of us at home start to become disillusioned, and those of us as the decision makers feel disillusioned because we're facing into decisions that 8 weeks ago we didn't even think we'd have to consider. And then we hit stage 3, denial, or crisis, or lack of understanding of meaning, a feeling of helplessness and lost. And at this point it's very easy to fall off the wagon. So the transition curve, you'll see, you start off here initially shocked. We then have the uninformed optimism, the hopefulness, excitement. It then becomes clear we're in this for the long haul, and we hit the stage 2, which becomes the informed or understood pessimism and negativity. And we're coming down the hill at this point, and we're about to reach the base. And at this point you have denial, crisis, loss of understanding, loss of meaning, whichever words you want to use. And at this point you can completely fall off the scale, or you can be dragged back into a stage of knowledgeable, informed hope and optimism. So that would be your 5th stage, because in the version that I'm talking to, stage 1, stage 2, we're on stage 3 now, we're on the come down. Stage 4 is we've gone, absolutely gone. We need help, we need support. We can't see the bright future ahead. For me, this video is about saving people at stage 3 and jumping them to stage 5, which, as I say, is informed, knowledgeable hope and optimism. But to talk to what stage 3 truly looks like. In real terms, we're a fair few weeks in at this point. Homeschooling once felt exciting, it's now just screaming kids blaring in your face. The idea of popping to the toilet is your sanctuary for 10 minutes. It's freedom. What started off as an exciting Zoom call, as I said, in stage 2, starting to wear thin now. Maybe those of you that hadn't been furloughed, their bosses are demanding more of you as they're panicking, as they're worrying about their business. Actually, the demands become more unreasonable. The thought process appears to be less logical because you don't have the same connection that you once did, because there's a remote relationship at this point. And both of you are second guessing the other one. The little things start to get on your nerves. Your click and collect deliveries or your home deliveries, one product being subbed out for another, not being able to pop out of your house, having to think twice about whether it's okay to take the children to the woods for your family daily exercise. All these decisions that at stage 1 were new and exciting, and whilst there was fear, there was some liberation that we can beat this. At stage 2, the beginning of the frustration and the pessimism. At stage 3, I said there's the denial, the hopelessness feeling, but it's about not going to stage 4 there. And again, the purpose of this video is, as leaders, recognising this in your people. Everyone will hit stage 1, everybody will hit stage 2, and everyone will have hit stage 3 for a greater or shorter period of time, but stage 3 will happen. Or the crisis of understanding, the lack of meaning in stage 3. And as the leader, or even if this is your friends, you need to at this point recognise the behaviour.
I didn't cut my hand on a glass. I broke a window in my apartment.
This guy's walking down the street when he falls in the hall. The walls are so steep he can't get out. A doctor passes by and the guy shouts up, "Hey, you, can you help me out?" The doctor writes a prescription, throws it down in the hole, and moves on. Then a priest comes along and the guy shouts up, "Father, I'm down in this hole, can you help me out?" The priest writes out a prayer, throws it down in the hole, and moves on. Then a friend walks by. "Hey, Joe, it's me, can you help me out?" And the friend jumps in the hole. Our guy says, "Are you stupid? Now we're both down here." The friend says, "Yeah, but I've been down here before and I know the way out." Long as I got a job, you got a job, you understand?
Do they look more dishevelled or unkempt than normal? Have they started to care less about the time that they get on the call, their promptness, the quality of their work? Do they appear disengaged? Have they lost a lot of weight? Have they gained a lot of weight? Do they seem like a different person to the person that you knew 6-7 weeks ago when you were in an office together? And that's really important, because as businesses we need to put the support network in. Some of the businesses that have cash reserves and haven't furloughed people have put in helplines and all sorts of really great stuff to support their people, but realistically not every business can do that. So as a leader, as a manager, as a peer, as a colleague, for me it's really important at this time that you start to reach out to one another and actually start to ask the serious questions of how that person's doing. And for me, one of the best pieces of advice I could give in this stage is most people are having team meetings and weekly catch-ups. On the agenda for your team meeting, it should be a "how are we all doing?" an honest conversation. If that's as one-to-one catch-ups or as team catch-ups. Because just because you're the leader doesn't mean that actually you won't be in stage 3 at that time. And I think it's super healthy that we face into the reality that life as we know it's going to be different for a number of months. Even as the rules start to relax, we're not going to get back to normal for quite a while. So we need to face into that. And I think it's super important that whether you've got 1 staff, 200 staff, you check in and you get your people to check in with their people. And you recognise the signs and we help them as best we can, and we make it easier for them where possible, because you want to protect your company, you want to keep the productivity high. The best way to do that is have happy and engaged workforce, all the things we've talked about in other videos. But because we're sat at home, I've seen signs of it in people I talk to, clients that I work with, where actually the value we previously put on things has been replaced by, no fault of anyone's, a much more intrinsically selfish mindset of "I've got to do what I've got to do to get through this." But actually, as with most of the things in life, through support, talking about it and sharing is actually where we bring people out the other side and kick your business into that upward curve sooner. So that's stage 3, and what I think is really important actually as management teams and as leaders, that you consider stage 3, because it's so easily forgotten, but it's really, really important, because we're all going to hit stage 3. Stage 4 I'll touch on briefly, because hopefully people don't get there, but that is genuinely where there can be mental health questions. Doesn't necessarily mean depression and all of the really scary stuff, but actually it's very easy to lose your workforce at this point, because you're either furloughed or not, in fear of being furloughed or not, in fear of losing your job or not. Or the flip side, there are companies that are flourishing during this time, and actually people are being asked to do 10, 12, 15-hour days, and you don't want to complain about that because you're lucky enough to be in a company that's flourishing, which is amazing. But when you're in your home office, when you're in your bedroom, wherever you are working from, those can be lonely hours. All the interaction you receive is emails, Zoom calls, text messages and chases. The human interaction, the softness, the soft skills have disappeared at this point. We've all got stuff to do. We've all got a big list of itineraries that we've got to get through. We've all got a bunch of calls. And actually, there's studies that prove this. Phones, social media, text messages, WhatsApp messages are all a much, much higher stressor than face-to-face interaction. And we have to bear that in mind as managers, as leaders, as colleagues. Hitting each other with messages all day, every day, isn't you doing your job. Concise, considered approaches and communications will carry your company far quicker, far better, particularly for those people who are in that stage 4 utter crisis now. Utter crisis. They are lost. They've come off track, and they need someone to step in and help them. And this is where it's really important, as I mentioned in stage 3. If you've put in those pillars, those weekly calls, those weekly catch-ups, but it's not just work, 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 it's how are you? Person to person, how are you? You may need to intervene to pick that person up. Just little things, might be a daily call. It may be something as silly as organising 30 minutes a day where you all FaceTime together to do a workout. It may be that you send them a little hamper. It may be a card. It may be just a little moment that gives you a smile. It may be that you say, take the week off. Me and the team have got this, because we're all going to have stage 3, but not everyone will have stage 4, but more people will hit stage 4 if they're not, in inverted commas, saved. And the save is much easier than we think. It just requires a little bit of effort. The things we'd notice in person that are very easy to miss via WhatsApp, FaceTime, Skype, Zoom, whatever the communication tool is. It's really easy to forget about those moments. And those little moments are everything, particularly if you're a more fragile person or a more emotionally connected person. You're being taken away from the stuff that gives you nourishment, and actually a bit of day-to-day interaction might be all that you need to bring that person back out of stage 4. So just a really important one, and something to consider, not just for well-being, which to me, you probably know by now is hugely important, but for your business. You need your best people, you need your best players on the pitch during this time. Give them the helping hand that they need. And if you need the help yourself, do not be afraid. No leader's too big to admit that they're struggling. So make sure you do. A few of the signs of stage 4, as I briefly mentioned: weight loss, weight increase, looking dishevelled, restless, indecision, taking a lot longer to come back to you than they previously did, going missing or appearing missing from meetings. Suddenly they're no longer as prompt as they once were. The environment behind them looks chaotic. All these little signs will be things, they're little things that should go off in your mind. So I just need to keep an eye out for that person or that person, because this last couple of weeks they seem to have really deteriorated. So just watch out for a few of the signs and step in. Some of the things you can do to prevent that: give people structure. Always give autonomy. You can tell that's a big part of my management style and what I advocate hugely. But create the structure that everybody had when they're in a working environment, whether that's daily briefings, weekly meetings, certain head of department meetings. Keep that structure. Help your staff keep a structure that feels like normal life for them, because just because they're in their office, their bedroom, their living room, their library, whatever it might be, keep a structure for them. The meetings that took place, replace those with calls, but then don't overwhelm them. Just because you're at home doesn't mean you need more communication. As I said, you're looking for the signs. Doesn't mean you need to overwhelm these people. Give them the structure they had in the workplace, but no more. That gives you enough touch points, but also gives them enough breathing space to get their work done. Create a chart. Sounds really silly. These are the meetings that are going to happen in our business. These are the people that are going in each meeting, department by department, head by head. Cascade that out. It's suddenly created a structure, just like people like a pyramid or an organisational chart of where they sit in the hierarchy. Give them the same for their weekly structure. Create the pillars of their day and their week to give them that kind of warm hug of structure that we all look for in a work environment. Stage 5, the informed optimism, the knowledgeable understanding, the knowledgeable hope. Those are the moments where you've hit stage 3. Hopefully you're lucky enough to have skipped 4 and you've gone to 5, or even if you've gone to 4, you're coming out the other end at this point, and you recognise there is hope. But there's also reason behind hope. It's now clear this isn't going to be fixed in the next 3 or 4 weeks. probably not the next 3 or 4 months. So you're starting to shift your focus back towards hope and optimism. I'm now informed. I now have all the information that I need to make an informed decision. The rules are starting to be relaxed. Do I or don't I remain at home? Can I or can't I work from home? If I can't, what are the things I can put in place to protect me and my family as I go to work? What is my employer doing? If they're not doing enough, I need to be brave enough to say that. But I'm making the steps to get my life back to normal. For those of you as leaders, make these steps. Do not wait for the staff to ask. It's your obligation here to help them through this time, because they're going to help the company through. So create, as when someone starts a new job, an induction plan. Re-induct them back into the business.
We've never worked in a place like this before. You're hilarious. And you get the best out of us. I think that pretty much sums it up.
Maybe they're only asked to go into the office once a week and the rest is from home. It's about that structure again that I talked about previously. Create that structure chart. These are the meetings. These are what's going to happen. These are the days we need you here. These are the days you can be at home. Or maybe every day you're in. But if you're in every day, the biggest question all of your employers will have is, how can you keep me safe? And before you rush to get all the staff back in, ensure you're taking all of the necessary precautions you can. Not every company can afford rafts of PPE, but there are reasonable measures that we can all take. Spacing out the desks, not asking people in for non-essential work. There's lots of little things, and we all understand what they are as employers. We know what they are. We don't need to be told. As much as we're asking for the government to define it, we fundamentally understand how this disease is spread now. We know that we haven't really got traceability tests yet. We know that we don't have a vaccine, and we know that not every test is accurate. So why would we take all these risks unnecessarily? Put procedures and precautions in place to give your staff the best chance. You don't want that on your conscience. You don't want that to be weighing on their mind too much. You want their eyes and their focus on the job, not just for the business, but actually for their own mental health. It would be nice to take the anxiety away from them, that they can concentrate on something that isn't whether they're going to catch a disease or not. So we're now, as I say, in this informed, optimistic state. We recognise the challenges that we face, but we can see that there is light at the end of the tunnel. So we've accepted that. We're informed at this stage, but hope prospers always, doesn't it? So hope now takes over. We start to recalibrate what our hopes and ambitions are. Hope starts to form, because actually our proactivity, our productivity and our positivity will be what leads us out of this mess. As a business, as leaders, as managers, as a nation, as workforces, those three things are the stuff that's going to drive you, your business, your happiness, your well-being forward. So for me, the purpose of this video was to talk about that curve that we've all been on, and anybody that says they haven't is a liar. We've all had moments where we go, God, this is proper shit. And we've had those moments where you go, it's really made me look at what my life was before. My priorities were wrong. I wasn't getting the quality time that I now get with my family. And actually, I think one of the positives, because there are a lot of negatives, one of the positives we should try and take is that it gives us the opportunity to recalibrate our lives and what do we want the future to look like for ourselves. Transition curves happen in all businesses. If you've just bought a company, I've been through buyouts before, exactly the same situation happens there. There's hope and positivity, all's well, we're all friends, and actually, as always, because that's business, there's problems. So you start to dip, and the dip then comes once you've been in buyouts. Can you grab a hold of that management team and bring them into the culture of the parent that's bought them and get them into stage 5 as quick as possible? But don't do this alone. So I thought hopefully a really useful video just to spark some thoughts about leadership as we transition back into the new normal, or for quite a lot of people, a number that I know, the new normal is still many weeks away, because a lot of the companies have lost such turnover that the idea of bringing people back to work sooner and not using the government funding is many, many weeks away. So we're all at different stages in this transition curve, but we need to help each other. We need to support one another. And in the biggest businesses, do everything you can to bring your people and yourself through it. And in the smallest companies, the touch points are probably even more regular, so recognise them, help one another through. There's lots of small things we can do, but actually, hopefully that's a useful video today about the transition curve of the coronavirus and how it relates into your business and your people. So help one another, be kind, be patient, but most importantly, as always, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much, guys. Bye.